Hello and welcome everyone to this first session on the basics of HTML tutorials. What we will do in this session and a few sessions going forward is learn the basics of what the HTML is all about. What does it stand for? How do we start working with it? Why is it important for every IT professional to have a basic conceptual idea on HTML? So primarily, to begin with, the easiest thing to say is HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. But most importantly, it is the smallest building blocks that help in constructing all the applications that we see in today's web-based world. In fact, if you look at what we do today, almost everything is web-based. Be it you're seeing it on your laptop, on your local machines, on different servers, or even on smartphones and mobile devices and so on. The basic structured language which is constructing all of these applications is your HTML. Now, without having to say anything further, let's get started with trying to create our first web page using HTML. Now, to do that, we will use very simple tools. Okay, there is no complex tools to use. This is one of the easiest languages to learn. It is got no complexity. It's just got a lot of innovativeness into it. So you just have to keep trying different things, innovate new things, build new websites, and so on. It's going to be very interesting. So the first thing you can do is start with a simple text document. So right click on your system, you can go to your new text document. So this text document will help you write what you want as a HTML file. So this, I'm going to call this as HTML test, HTML-test1. That is the name of this text document. Let's say we give. Now, what we will do is we will open this as a text document, but before I do anything else, I will not save this anymore as a .txt file. The first thing that we need to know is that HTML files have a .html as the extension for each of these files. So you will need to manually name it again as HTML. So select the save as to be all files and click .html in here. Now what we have done is the text document that we opened, now we are saying that, hey, you know what, I'm saving this as a .html version. So at this point you'll have two files on your system. One is the text document that we created. Second is the saved version that we created and saved it as a HTML document. Now what you've done is basically created your first text document first HTML document using your notepad. If I right click and say open, or you can choose open with and select which browser you want, it should show up that specific file. But there is nothing in here that you may be able to look at. So all that you see is a link to this file. And what does it point to? This points to the file which is there in our system here. So what we basically are trying to do is, if I take a sketch of it, is that on a local machine, I could put some HTML files and I could use my browser. All right, I can use my browser to view them. The browsers that you have like Firefox, Chrome, IE, etc. are used to view these HTML files. Now, where are these HTML files, or the one we created right now? On a local machine. All right. What typically happens is, for you to be able to share this with everyone externally so that any of your contacts or your visitors are able to view this, you have to put it on a server so that you could give something like a HTTP address where all your external contacts who are not on your local network, who are not connected to your network in your home or wherever you're watching it from, can also view this HTML file. So you put this HTML file on the server, and when you want to view it, your browser will actually start accessing that file from the HTML. Now, for the purpose of our learning, it is very, very easy for us to stick to just our local machine and try and experiment on the HTML. Then I will try and probably show you WordPress or some other platforms and a few CMS tools using which you could put them on a different server and start accessing it from there. All right. Now let's go back to our first HTML file that we created. So what we did in this is just created a basic one. Now is the starting point where we go about playing with this file that we created. So open this HTML file with a notepad. Why do we want to open it with a notepad? So that you can edit what you put into it. Now, what is the first thing that happens in a HTML, in any HTML file? What you would see is something called as tags. All right. Tags are kind of the smallest building blocks that you would see in any HTML file. Now, let me quickly try and clear these. Okay, there you go. Clear most part of it. All right. What is important to note in this is that you have to use different tags. Tags represent how HTML or a browser will understand what you want to say. A less than and a greater than symbol holds the tags within it. Apologize for my writing, it's not that good, but hope you can easily make it. So I have a less than and a greater than symbol, and that basically holds a tag. So everything that we do in HTML will be based out of a tag. In fact, what I want each of you to do is just play around after this exercise to identify and see how HTML files look. Whenever you go to any website, whenever you visit any website on your browser, what is happening is it is basically loading a HTML file behind it. So if you right click on any of the website and say view page source, what you see is the HTML code for it. Okay, here it is, though it is encrypted, there is still some basic structure to it. Do you see this last tag called HTML? And do you see this first tag called HTML? This is the basic construction of a HTML file. Okay, what we will do will not be as scripted as this. It will have a much more neater look to what we will do now. So in our text file that we've opened, the first thing we will do is create a less than HTML and close it with a greater than HTML. So anything that we do will be within these HTML tags, and that will basically communicate to the browser as to what is it that we wish to display. So let's say if I want to say hello and welcome to ITeLearn.com. Let's say this is a message that I want to put in my test. So I save this, and if I go and open this HTML document, and let's say that we are still opening it with Firefox, you would see that specific message coming up displayed. Do you see this text? Now here is the text. Let me increase the size of this. Actually, no, I'll put it at the same size so that we will need, where do I control the size? Okay, Firefox. View options. Where is the size? Should be in options. That's okay. We'll look into it later. I just wanted to set it back to the normal size. There is should be control minus or control equal to, control shift equal to, something like that. Okay. What I was trying to do is just get it to the regular size. Where do I see options? Toolbar options. Not here. Content. choose advanced. No. Ideally, it should have been somewhere here where I am able to easily view. Let me close it and start a browser. Not sure. That's okay. It's a small trivial thing. We'll come back to it later. But what was important is I will open this with Notepad and keep it on one side. And I am going to open the same using Firefox and keep this on the other side. So I have my source of that code and the HTML file displayed on the website. So what you see in the address bar here is the HTML file. Okay, and what you see is whatever you write here is the message that is shown out here. Every HTML code starts with a HTML tag at the beginning and a HTML tag at the end, but then for every code you will every opening tag there will be a closing tag. And the way we differentiate the opening and closing tag is basically by using the same less than and greater than, but this time you have a slash before the name of the tag. Okay, so the name of the tag, whatever you give, you will have a slash before it. Now, what I can do is just go around, play with it. Now let's say that I want to write something more onto this specific page. So what I do is, let's say I write welcome to the HTML tutorials. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is add more content onto my HTML code so that I could look at the output on the browser. Now if I do a refresh, what you should see is these two lines getting generated here. But I wanted to put these two lines in two separate lines. I didn't want it to be in the same line. Though I have it in two separate lines in my source, this is the HTML source, I see it to be in the same line in the browser. Why is that? The reason this happens is I have to give specific instructions to everything. What I give here as an instruction in the source is what I will get here in the browser. The text is coming as is, but the way it is supposed to get displayed is not getting displayed. So what we will do now is we will learn two more new tags. The one tag, which is every tag in fact is important, but which is kind of contains the entire body of your HTML code, is called the body tag. Okay, the reason you require a body tag is just to distinguish between what you have as your main content for your HTML page and what you have as not the main content that is displayed elsewhere, and that you display using a header tag. Okay, so the two other tags which are important for us to know is head and body. The head tag or the header tag contains specific information. The body contains a different specific type of information. Now what I have done is I have used these two tags. I have used tab just to make my dull looking notepad document differentiate on what I'm trying to do and have a better UI or a better visibility into what we're doing. Save it as is and refresh this. Any change that we see? Is it even reflecting the change? Let's play around. And I'll say this is the third line. Okay, save it and let's refresh this and see now. Now you're getting whatever is changed. So it is happening. Whatever we're doing is still getting generated here. But what did body do for me? Nothing specifically, nothing so far. But as we go along, you will see how your content will get distributed between your head and your body. Let's focus on body for some more time. The intent of me having a body as a separate section is I can decide what I want to show where. Number one, I want to display these 3 sentences in 3 different lines. To do that, what I will do is put breakpoints. These tags, and sometimes this is called as single tags, is the tag BR stands for break, or a manual break or a line break. What that does is, if I put a break at any point in the code, when a browser sees this, it recognizes this, that after, as soon as it sees break, replace that break with a manual line break. In the sense, if you refresh, you would see, why is it not showing anything different? Because we didn't save this content. So save the latest code and refresh. Now do you see this? Wherever you saw a break, that specific section will get into the next line. So let's say that I take away a break here. What should happen to my website? Hello and welcome to ITeLearn.com dot should be in one line. Then there is a break. We will start writing this. Is there a break here? No. So then what will happen? It will continue to write this and then do a break. So now let's see. Do you see this? Wherever you put a break, that is where it will enter a new one. You could add more than one breaks. And that way you are basically saying how much of break do you want between each lines. So that is the flexibility you can bring. You can decide as to how you want and where your content should be displayed and so on. So every content, your images, the tables, and a lot of other things that you will slowly start seeing in your web pages as we build them will be shown under the body. So then what goes under the head section? What primarily goes under the header section is one of the most important things being your title. Then there are different other things for search engine and other identification, which we'll look at later. But the most important thing is title. So I'll say title equals, in quotes, hello, I am the title. What do I mean by title on a web page or an HTML document? When I write a title, what it should display is the name of that page, the title of this web page out here. So whenever you load any web page, you would see a specific title being given here. So for example, if you go to ITeLearn.com, all right, you would see the title for our website out here. You will see software testing, QTP, Selenium, whatever is there. That is the title we gave. When you look at the source code for this application, you would see that being mentioned in there. All right. So at this time, if I save this saying title is this and I do a refresh, what do I see? Number one, I see that whatever I gave here is getting captured as is and displayed out here. Second thing I see is that it continues to display hello and welcome to blah blah blah, and then it gives a break. So what is the issue? Issue number one is it is not showing this as the title. Second, it is showing this as whatever is the content here. So if I just display content here, content in the head will also be shown in the main section of the, or view section, I'll say, of the browser. All right. But for a title, what I need to do is tags. Remember the tags? Always use your HTML tags. That is what your browsers will use to identify and differentiate what you mean by what. Once you encapsulate anything under tags, it is easy for the browser. It is how the browsers will identify what it is. So now let's save this and do a refresh here and see. You now see hello, I am the title up here, but you also see the quotes that you put in here coming in here. Do you see this? Then you also see content in the head will also be shown in the main view section of the browser. So whatever we gave is also being shown there, right? And it will continue to do with the remaining things. Now, why didn't it show it earlier? Why did hello and welcome to go into the next line? Because my browser size was small, and that is why it showed it next line. You don't want to display this content here. Okay, so Let me keep this as is, but now save as a new version, HTML test2. Make sure that you save it as all files and put a extension of .html. You can also use .html instead of HTML. That is fine. Either one is okay. Now I have HTML test2, so I can remove this and use this version. I'm just creating different versions so that you can take these versions as files and start using it. Now let's refresh this and see. Why does it still show content in the head? Yeah, because I'm referring to HTML test2.html. Now let's change it to test2, which I'm supposed to be referring. There you go. All right, perfect. Now let's look at playing around with this HTML code a little bit more. We've seen HTML tag, we've seen header tag, we've seen title, body, and the break. Let us say that I want this to be of a big size or the main heading of my web page. For example, if you go back to the ITeLearn, you'll see the different fonts, or you go to any website, in fact, you'll see different sizes of text being mentioned. So you could change how the text size looks. One of the primary areas where you use something called as headings, okay, within your code is called your header sizes. Okay, your headings are represented using tags called as h1, h2, h3, h4, and I think it is up to h5, then h6. Okay. Now, what this does is, if you have, see, I'm having to put these tabs and everything. Why? So that it is easy for us to see what we are doing. Okay. This is biggest header 1. Okay. Then I'll say this is header size 2. This is header 3. This is header 4. This is header 5. And I'll say this is header. This is smallest header 6. Okay. And close the tags. At this time, let us save this and test our code and see what happens. Okay. Now you see all these things being mentioned. The sizes of your headings, actually this is not header, this is a heading. So it's the same thing, it doesn't make any difference, but it is better to word it. This is heading. When you write your documents, right, you create headings, and then you have the main paragraphs, then you have sub bullet points and all that. So even HTML is trying to show display content. Yes, there will be images, there will be links, there will be boxes, edit fields, and so on. That's fine, but that is what we're trying to show. So replace all and show here. Now, do you see an issue that we have with the display? I in fact expected it to throw up some kind of a error, because I have closed the h1 tag out here, and I have closed the h6 tag, but I didn't close the h2 tag, and I didn't close a lot of other tags. When you don't close tags, typically what will happen is you will see issues coming up. What kind of an issues that are unexpected? You don't know really what will happen, because when the browser starts displaying, it will say, okay, header 1 starts here and it ends here. If I don't do that and I put this header 1 end somewhere else, then it will try and recognize it differently. Okay, so once you get a little bit more familiarized, create a few more basic pages in the right, correct manner, then we will try and deliberately make more mistakes and learn more from it. Okay, so now with the correct syntax, I have saved it, and let's display it. Now nothing big has changed, it is just shown exactly the same thing again. Now what you have in here is your HTML code, and what we show here is the display of this HTML code in a browser. If I take the same thing and I show it in a Chrome, right, you should see the same display. But sometimes what happens, as you continue to write your different HTML codes, a lot of new things you bring into it, you would see that the same HTML code may look differently on different browsers. And that is basically your browser compatibility. So when you write your code, right now it is very simple. There's nothing too complicated about it. Once you do more complex things into it, you will see the differences happening. All right. So I believe this is good for this session. Let's come back in the next session and review a few more things. Hey, in fact, you know what? I wanted to, show the HTML editor. Let me show you this HTML editor in the next session. So that's it for this session. We'll see you in the next session shortly, where we will look at something called as an HTML editor. Thank you so much. See you soon.